A solar dragon has often been depicted as a huge dragon that embodies the essence of the sun. They are radiant in appearance, as you'd probably guess, and obviously have the normal characteristics of a dragon. Immense strength, imposing, and obviously a high defense towards magic, and if you're a true fan, your wallet. But dragons aren't just cool, no, much like how The Walking Dead, not the show, the monster, mind you, or just the fantasy genre in general, they are usually within, they have a much more symbolic and deeper cultural meaning. You see, ever since I saw that episode of Frieren where Stark takes on the solar dragon who is stashing away Frieren's beloved grimoires like some squirrel burying his nut deep inside the fertile ground, right after that I was contacted by Big Flying Lizards, a podcast about dragons, to appear on a show. So, to be prepared for that podcast, I took to the internet to figure out just what is the solar dragon exactly. So let's saddle up Dovahkiin and ride the dragon in. For the love of God, drop a like on the video, subscribe, and become a patron to get the next video before it drops next week. In Frieren, the solar dragon is mainly used as a catalyst to introduce a new chapter into the merry traveling party of yet another hot grandma in anime, Frieren, and her sidekick, Fern. Because the dragon, the solar dragon, is too difficult to defeat on their own, which is kind of funny considering what Frieren did to Aura and what Fern would later do to Stark's poise. You think they'd, even then could take them on? Except that's the thing. Solar dragons, or just dragons in general, have a high defense against magic. Essentially, it's using a good old beloved dragon trope. But for now, it's important to know that the solar dragon largely represents a stepping stone to what is to come next in the story, or rather, the next step. The introduction to one of anime's best easygoing and easy-loving support characters, Stark!
もう逃げられる雰囲気じゃないんだよ。フリーレン様、こいつはダメです。
Stark is a vanguard, and if you don't know what that means, in fantasy, vanguard typically refers to a group of elite soldiers, troops, or characters that lead the charge in battle, often tasked in disrupting enemy lines or achieving strategic objectives. It can also devote a class of characters in games that are well-balanced and versatile, capable of adapting to various roles in combat. Thank you so much, AI Assistant. Where would I be without you to control my every single thought? AI, search for Frieren's. Stark is mainly being sought out by Frieren and Fern because as a vanguard, Stark doesn't specialize in magic. He is no mage, he's just a poor boy with a big axe, but that is exactly why they need him. He can fight the solar dragon as he would essentially have no disadvantage as his powers and abilities wouldn't be negated like Frieren and Fern's are. This is perfect as this means that with the help of Stark, they would be able to defeat the dragon and progress in their journey. However, their image of Stark would be turned upside down. On the way, they are told by a grandma that Stark actually had saved the village from the very same solar dragon before. In other words, Frieren and Fern have done it. They hit the jackpot. Not only are they going to get their grimoire, but they'll be able to do so easily with someone who has fought it before. But when they arrived, things would change. Instead of expecting a glistening, rugged, and sweaty dragon slayer, harder, tougher, and hotter than the rest, they instead find relatively a village twink. Joking aside, they find Stark deflated and depressed. Because while the village people are more than happy and welcome Stark with open arms, he has trouble accepting their praise. This is largely because the stories that they were told on the way there weren't accurate to what had actually happened. Stark didn't defeat or protect the villagers from the dragon. He wasn't successful. The solar dragon simply left on his own volition, and it's the only reason they're still alive. Not because of Stark's actions or bravery. It is simply because the solar dragon was indifferent that day. And this highlights what would become a larger pillar of Stark's character. This larger feeling of not being enough, that no matter what he does, Stark really just cannot catch a break. This is important because it permeates throughout this entire character arc throughout the series. Stark's struggles with Fern are a great example of this, but we're not talking about that. This moment represents Stark's redemption, a chance to face the Solar Dragon again. Initially, he is cowardly, wanting to run away from this issue, which is no doubt due to the pressure of the praise the villagers have given him, which serve less as inspiration and more of an albatross around his twinky little neck. He is paralyzed because the two options are precarious and could potentially lead to an outcome that ostracizes him from the community that loves him. If he gives up like a coward, then the people who love and celebrate him will surely die from the dragon attacks eventually. On the other hand, if he faces the dragon, it could either expose to everyone that his victory is a mere fluke, or a misunderstanding, or both. Stark's introduction really is just plagued with a thick layer of uncertainty. For such a young kid, he has such big decisions to make, and he hasn't even started his journey. I mean, how could you expect someone so young and inexperienced to make such an important decision? It seems impossible. But he is given the opportunity nonetheless, and he's given 24 hours to decide. Surprisingly, the young boy makes the decision to give it another shot and trains diligently to face off against the Solar Dragon, and really the rest is history, as they say. To me, the Solar Dragon in Frieren represents not just a fun quest for the girls or just a fun action scene. Now, that being said, it is those things, but that is not the main point. Don't get it twisted. The Solar Dragon represents the classic motif of a great challenge that is noble, fair, but difficult. A symbol of something every man and woman must face, constantly. The trials of life itself, and the insurmountable decisions we must make as people, or seemingly insurmountable. The Solar Dragon is a threat that represents Stark's greatest challenge in life, a challenge that The Clash laid out so well in their famous hit, which is to say, should I stay or should I go? Does he stay and fight the dragon to overcome his most harrowing challenge, or does he go, quit, run away from the fear of an outcome that has yet to even be determined? He is at the edge of a precipice. Above is glory, below is doom. And when given these two options, or rather when he is faced with these two options or outcomes, Stark makes the correct decision, in my opinion, and fights the dragon, realizing his own inner strength in that moment. Stark learned in that moment that there is no challenge that he cannot overcome when he isn't alone or when he puts mind over matter. Without people to support him, he can only get so far. But with Frieren, Fern, and the village people appreciating him nonetheless and looking up to him for guidance, he no longer wears it around his neck as an albatross by the end, but more of an amulet of fortify strength. I think the Solar Dragon's entire reasoning for being in this show is to tell more of a moral. I think the Solar Dragon's entire reason for being is to tell a moral, which according to Webster, a great resource, says the following: moral, the moral significance or practical lesson as of a story, or a passage pointing out, usually in conclusion to the lesson to be drawn from a story. That moral can be summed up to something largely novel. I gotta have friends. I cannot move mountains alone. There is no such thing in our world as someone who can just do everything in life alone. The reason is because eventually I will run across my own Solar Dragon and it will test me. It will test my speed. It will test my strength, my patience, and intelligence in battle. It won't wait for me to get up off my ass, and if it does, I better remember to carve out my name on the very sword in which I will slay it with. Because while it's easy to run away from the dragon, it's much harder to live with the regret of not slaying a beast that I could have put down. Stark chose to live with no regrets. And the moral is asking me and calling upon you, are we going to turn down this once-in-a-lifetime chance to slay our dragon, to stand up for what we are to like a core molecular DNA level? Should we stay, or should we go? Something to pontificate over, I guess.
You were exceptional. That was quite the show. Well done.
If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to check out my other videos on the screen here and my Patreon. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.